refund that's given to each resident who files an income tax return for the previous fiscal year, and the first round of distributions is set to be received on or before September 12th. And with two additional distribution dates scheduled for September 9 and 13, according to the governor's office, those who have not filed tax returns, owed money to the government, or filed their taxes after July 31st will receive their checks 10 weeks after the Department of Taxation receives documents. The governor said in a statement, "It's my hope that the $300 million in tax refunds begins to go distributed so far, bring some relief to the hardworking people in the state of Hawaii who were hit hard by the crisis." According to the governor, the amount each person will receive as part of a refund is determined by the person's filing status, adjusted gross income, and the number of claimed exemptions. Single filers earning an annual income of under $100,000 will receive one-time checks of $300, with single taxpayers with a higher gross of income receiving $100. Married couples who file joint returns are also set to receive $300 as part of the one-time payments. In addition to the stimulus checks, Hawaiians can look forward to the state's minimum wage being raised for the first time since 2018. The bill approved by Governor Ige raises the minimum wage of $10.10 per hour to $12 an hour starting October 1st. Also, some good news for you guys that live in Indiana. They can expect to see another $200 in your bank account after Indiana lawmakers approved a second set of payments during the special session. This cash comes from the state surplus. Governor Holcomb pitched the idea of a $225 check to help Indiana residents struggling with high gas prices and inflation. In the Indiana House bill and Senate took approaches to different inflation relief checks. The House plan mirrored the governor's proposal and includes payments of $225 to residents, while the Senate plan, on the other hand, includes a proposal to... It's on the way right now, everybody. More and more fourth stimulus payments have been approved. Congress is going to take huge action this week to establish new financial assistance programs, and millions of Social Security, SSI, SSDI, and RRB beneficiaries can expect to receive new stimulus payments. States have announced their action plan to address the rising cost of living that so many people are facing. President Biden has also made announcements on how the White House plans to further lower prices for the American people.
This means taking health care to the people, often the hardest to reach and often left out and the most medically underserved. So I urge President Biden to sign this bill into law without delay to improve health outcomes across the board and make a positive difference in people's lives. Thank you, and I yield back.
And while U.S. gas prices have come down from the highs seen this summer, they are still clearly weighing on President Biden, who today repeated demands for oil companies to charge less. During a meeting of the White House Competition Council, Joe Biden said last month, "The price of oil worldwide is down, and we haven't seen the lower prices reflected at the pump." Meanwhile, oil and gas companies are still making record profits and billions of dollars more in profits. And according to the AAA, U.S. oil futures fell 9.2% in August. Gas prices during the same month were also down, dipping to 9.2%. As Biden noted in his speech, gas prices across the country remain uneven. They are substantially higher in western states due to a lack of refining capacity. Biden told reporters, "My message is simple. To the companies running gas stations and send these prices, bring down the prices you're charging at the pump to reflect the cost you pay for the product." Biden's words echo comments he made earlier this year as average U.S. gas prices surged, hitting more than $5 a gallon in June. The White House expanded considerable effort to try and reverse this trend, including massive releases of stockpiled petroleum. Gas prices have fallen since that peak by more than $1 on average, helped by the decline for international oil prices amid the impact of the crisis and speculation around the effects of a global economic slowdown. However, there are new signs that gas prices are bottoming out after they rose slightly last week. For Biden, that risk
and the policies that we have passed here in the Senate, that Democrats have passed here in the Senate, frankly, are making a huge difference. And of course, we're only getting started. As we continue implementing the IRA, the American people will see more evidence of the Democratic agenda working for them. And on AI, finally, with so much going on in the Senate, I want to remind my colleagues, today we will hold our third all-out Senate briefing on artificial intelligence. Our presenters today are Rick Stevens from the Department of Energy's Argonne National Lab, Dr. Setharam Panchanathan from the National Science Foundation.
Travel and summer vacations. but many Americans are still struggling to fill their tanks while juggling other expenses. California Democrats Representative Khanna and Sheldon Whitehouse have proposed a big oil windfall profits tax in a stated effort to reduce gas prices even further. Under the legislation, large oil companies like ExxonMobil would pay a per barrel tax equal to 50% of the difference between the current price per barrel and the pre-crisis average price and the pre-crisis level before. Tax revenue would go back to taxpayers earning less than $75,000 or $150,000 filing jointly as a quarterly rebate to alleviate some of the ongoing pain at the pump. Lawmakers in Congress estimate that single filers get roughly $240 a year and that joint filers can cash in on about $360 annually. Democratic Representative Jamal Bowman and Bernie Sanders have introduced complementary legislation targeting price gougers in the oil and gas sector. A bill proposed by 3 House Democrats would send money every month to families when the national average for gas is more than $4 a gallon. Under the legislation proposed by Mike Thompson, John Larson, and Lauren Underwood, eligible families would receive $100 per month plus another $100 for each dependent. In the meantime, many states have enacted or are working on implementing a gas tax holiday to provide some relief from high gas prices this summer. As recently as mid-June, President Biden was still considering a federal gas tax holiday, a move which could save Americans 18 cents a gallon. This week, gas costs less in South Carolina, Georgia, Texas, and Tennessee than it did before. And since the enhanced child tax credit reverted to its original maximum of $2,000 per child, similar initiatives by the U.S. government have been stalled. In response, many states have begun to introduce their own child tax credit programs, varying in scope and available credit amount. The Pennsylvania state has now joined 12 other states providing relief through state-legislated child tax credits and deductions. The governor, Tom Wolf, has recently signed off on the state's new $45 billion budget.
Truck industry has gone up. It is now at $76 billion. And the corporate lobbyists working on this bill, like pigs at the trough, are not yet finished. They want more and more and more. Their needs are insatiable. Mr. President, needless to say, I do not usually quote approvingly from the editorial page of the Wall Street Journal. They are not my best friends, and in fact, I think I get attacked on that page more than any other member of the Congress.
Eligible citizens will receive $500 universal basic income payments for a year via direct deposit or through a prepaid debit card. The state of Maine has sent out more than 450,000 relief payments to date, with thousands of more set to hit mailboxes in the coming weeks. The $850 checks are approved early this year by the bipartisan majority in the legislature as part of the budget signed by Governor Mills. Will go to nearly 1 million Mainers. The state is processing about 200,000 checks a week, and most should receive the checks by the end of July. The $1.2 billion state budget approved in April set aside more than half the total amount to be sent back to Mainers. During recent calls for a suspension of the state gas tax, which Mills opposes, she has pointed to state relief checks as a way for Mainers to cover high gas and grocery costs. Delaware officials have also proposed $300 stimulus checks to help them offset the impact of inflation. The Delaware stimulus checks will go to residents who filed a 2020 tax return. The lawmakers in the state, House, and Senate said they have reached a consensus on a direct payment plan, and lawmakers will come up with a legislation